Hi, Matt here from Core Healing, and today I wanted to just go through and demonstrate what an emotion code session looks like and how the email sessions do run. So basically what an email session is a proxy session. So I act as a proxy for you or whoever is getting the healing treatment done, and I use self-muscle testing on myself, and what I do is I tap into the subject's energy, the client I'm working on. I tap into their subconscious energy, and I do the testing on their subconscious through me. So that can be done at a distance. It can be done anytime. It can be done while you're at work, while you're sleeping. Anytime during the day. You don't have to be present in these sessions. So because energy is everything basically around us, if we have a microscope and we zoom in 100,000 times on whether it's our body or a desk or a computer or a phone, they're all essentially made up of the same thing, and that's energy. So what I do to connect to that energy is I just basically focus. Usually I'll use a photo of the person, and I'll focus in on that image and ask for guidance to connect with that person and to use that connection to access their subconscious and do the muscle testing so we can identify the emotions that we need to release in a session. So sort of like a mobile phone, and sort of can instantly connect through like the radio waves with anyone, anywhere. This sort of works on a similar basis. So today, because I haven't got anyone to do, I'm just going to do the session on myself, just to demonstrate on how the session runs. But basically that's how those email sessions will work. So we basically connect to your energy. Can be whenever in the day that suits you, can happen while you're sleeping, and that's how the session works. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate an emotion code session on myself, as I said, on myself, just so you can see exactly what the recording looks like, what the recording will come to you as, and then that will give you a better idea and better understanding of how the emotion code can work for you. So first of all, as you'll see on the screen up here, you'll see have like a client sheet we fill in, and this will get sent to you at the end of the session, as well as a video recording. So we record everything over Loom, record the videos, and we send you the link so you can watch the videos back over in your own time. So it's almost exactly like being in a session, but you're not actually having to be there and be present. It's really suitable for people who are really busy, have really busy lives, or if there's emotions that have been really traumatic for you and you just don't want to have to think about that emotion again. We can get in there, and through the muscle testing, we can identify the emotion, we can identify all that's needed in the emotion to release it, and basically you don't have to even think about it and put yourself in that situation again, because we know there's some situations that people being quite traumatic, and you don't want to have to go through that again. So this is the beauty of the emotion code, is that we can remove the energies and the triggers from those traumatic moments in our lives without having to bring them up again. So as I said, this is our worksheet. So in a session, we'll aim to release up to 10 emotions, but we're sort of guided by the subconscious. So if there's something big that might come up, the body might say, no, I need some time to process that energy and that release, and it will just basically tell us to stop. So, and then we don't go any further there, but we usually try and get to up to 10 emotions out. Sometimes, as I said, we won't get to that many, but our subconscious will let us, will guide us basically of what needs to happen to get the most efficient healing. So what we do is we pick a specific topic or an issue to work on. So there's a list in the product description of, there's probably about 50 to 100 different issues we can work on. And it's good to be more specific, as specific as we can. So for example, if you had anxiety, we can work on anxiety in general, but it may take a lot of time to get all that out. But if you have anxiety over a specific subject, a specific situation in your life, we can chip away at that one first, and then that'll take the emotional charge out of that subject, and then we can move on to each different subject. So the more specific we can be, the better. So what I'm going to work on today is having a few issues with my sinus, my right side. I've done a lot of work on emotion code work on my sinuses before. I had really a history of really bad sinus. Wake up every morning blocked up. I've pretty much cleared the left side. It's 100% clear, always clear and working well. But the right side's still probably about 50-60% sort of blockages sometimes. So I just want to make that as clear as the left side and really be able to breathe a lot easier. So what I'm going to work on today is the right side of the sinus. Age is 35. The age is basically, you get the age because when we test to see what emotion comes up, sometimes the emotion will need more to release. So I'll go through this as we go through the video, but we get the age. Just helps us cut down the age that we need to identify that an emotion occurred. Helps us identify that quicker. So we always want to do a scale between 1 to 10, with 10 being severe, just so we can get an idea of our progress we make in the sessions. So we can obviously, for physical pain, for any sort of thing, we can sort of put a scale on that, whether it's, say, the sinus, I'd probably rate it maybe 6 or a 7. But in each situation, we can still ask the subconscious as well. So your subconscious will sort of give us a rating of what that pain is and how much of that it's that pain or the situation is affecting you or your life. So we always put a scale there so we can measure down the track of how you're progressing and maybe how many sessions you might need to be able to clear that fully, the emotional energy that's stuck there, clean that out fully. So once we get through that, what we're going to do now is we're going to start releasing the trapped emotions. So what you'll see is I'm going to do some muscle testing on myself. So the way I do it, it's sort of like a lie detector for your body. So for a yes answer, muscles will go strong. For a no, your muscles will go weak. So if I ask, for example, is this trapped emotion in column A? If it stays strong, that's a yes. So then we're going to go further down. We'll get the row, and then we get to each individual emotion. This chart you'll see in the middle, these are the 6 sort of types of emotions that can come up. So I'll explain these quickly now. Prenatal is basically an emotion that's happened while you're in the womb, so between conception and when you're in the womb before birth. Most of the time, these are energies, these are emotions that you've absorbed from your mother, sometimes your father, but obviously being in the womb, you're really connected to your mother at the time, so what she feels can sort of come through you in the womb as well. The next one is preconception. So what a preconception trapped emotion is an emotion that has been lodged in your energy body before you are conceived. So let's say we have a spirit or a soul, and that soul picks the situation or the physical body it's going to come into before everything happens. And that soul or spirit can look over that life that it's about to come into and get a bit of emotion and trap an emotion there around their impending life. So that's what we have there. They're very rare, the preconception ones, but they do occur. The next one we have is inherited. So inherited is either inherited from your mother or your father. It's only from your birth parents. And that can be passed down many generations. So it can be several generations it goes back there. So usually when we get an inherited one, we'll find out where you've got it from your mother or your father and how many generations that goes back in your lineage. Common trapped emotion is basically emotion that you've created for yourself and you've trapped. Shared trapped emotion is 2 or more people who share the same emotion in a situation at exactly the same time. They share the exact same emotion. So Dr. Nelson, who created this, I think he figured this shared emotion out around 9/11, when he was seeing a lot of people coming in with the same sort of things, and because it all happened at the same time, people shared it on an energetic level, and it's usually, as I said, a connection between two or more people. And absorbed, the last one, absorbed, it's basically if somebody else's emotion, and they've gone through this emotional process, and you have been around them or near them, and you've taken that on as your own. So a lot of these ones are like kids taking on their parents' energy, or someone that has an influence in their life. And a lot of people there are some people who absorb more than others, and you probably know it yourself if you're one who sort of feels for people before you sort of be around them. So absorbed basically is someone else's that you've taken on as your own. So that's a quick explanation. So these are the 60 emotions so that we can have. There also is what we call compound emotion. So it's an emotion, it's two or more of these emotions on the chart here merged together to make one special frequency. So sometimes these are quite rare as well, but they do come up time to time, and it's just a blend of the two. So when we go through that chart, all those emotions have their own frequency, but this is a different frequency because it's two blended. So sometimes it won't give us a clear answer the first time, and usually that means there's two or more that are mixed in. That's pretty much it for the explanation. I'll start the session now. So I'll use the muscle testing to find out what the emotion is, and then I'm going to ask a question. Do we need to know any more about this once we find that emotion? If we do, then I'm going to get an age and then maybe a situation, and just keep going along that line, as much information that needs to be processed and brought to the surface before we can release it. When we go to release it, I have a magnet here. So the release is simply 3 swipes over my governing meridian, or part of my governing meridian. So the governing meridian is like a main meridian, an energy system, and it runs from the top of your lip straight over the top of your head down to the base of your spine. So once that opens up, it releases that emotional energy that's been stuck and lets it move on and clears it from your body. So I'll do three swipes for a normal emotion. Inherited I'll do 10 swipes over my governing meridian to open that up, because it involves a few other people, usually more than one person down the track there. So that's a simple explanation of what's going to happen in the session. Now, what I'll do is I'll get into the session, I'll find the first emotion, and I'll talk through as we go. So the first question I'm going to ask my subconscious is there a trapped emotion that is causing my right sinus to be blocked? And I've tested strong, so that's a yes. So now I'm going to go to the middle chart and get the type of emotion. So is the type of emotion on the left side? Is it on the right side? Is it common? So it's telling me it's a common emotion. Common emotions are the most popular. They'll come up usually about 90% of the time. So, and now I'm going to get the emotion that's causing part of this issue, or it could be all of the issue, that needs to be released. So what we do is we say, is it in column A? Is it in column B? So it's in column A, at column A test strong. So I've cut it down in half. Now I'm going to find the row. Is it an odd row? Is it an even row? So it's an even row. Is it row 2? Is it row 4? Is it row 6? So it's in column A, row 6. So is the trapped emotion humiliation? Is the trapped emotion jealousy? Is the trapped emotion longing? Is the trapped emotion lust? Is the trapped emotion overwhelm? So the trapped emotion is overwhelm. So I'm going to put that into the system there. And now I ask, do we need to know any more about this trapped emotion? And my muscle is testing strong. So I'm going to ask, what age did this occur? 0 to 20, 0 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20. So it's occurred between the age of 15 to 20. So I'm going to find the exact age now. It's 15, 16. So this one's come up age 16 for me, and overwhelm. So now I'm going to ask, do we need to know any more? And we do. So was this to do with overwhelm over family, overwhelm friends, overwhelm work? So it's overwhelmed towards work. So I left school at 15 and I got a job as an apprentice greenkeeper. So this would have been around the time I was in my first year of work. Was it due to a person? Was it due to a task? So it was due to a task at work that I had to do, that I felt overwhelmed. Something new, something I've never done. So it was overwhelmed over something I'd never done before. Spell that right. And do we need to know any more? And don't need to know any more about that. So sometimes that particular situation will come up and I'll be able to pinpoint it straight away. I can remember that straight away. But on this occasion, I can't remember the exact moment that there was something at work that I did. It's quite possible, being a first year apprentice, giving a new task to a first year apprentice who've never seen, never had to do that before, can be quite overwhelming. So it does make sense to me that I could have felt that emotion and trapped that. So I've identified all that I need to be released. So what I'm going to do now is release that trapped emotion by 3 swipes. And then I test again, have we released this trapped emotion? And it's tested strong for a yes answer. So that's how we basically identify those emotions. So what I'm going to do now is go through quickly as I'm doing it. If there's anything that comes up, I'll explain it as I go. So obviously I don't know what's going to come up, and either in your sessions we don't know how it's going to run until the sessions run its course. So it's all our subconscious. Our subconscious basically holds everything, all our memories, everything, and it controls 90 to 95% of our lives without us knowing. Like our driving, the amount of times you're driving a car, you drive along, and you don't remember the last 5 minutes of your driving. It's like, well, how did I get here? And that's your just subconscious just taking over and doing it because you've trained it to do that. And sometimes when we have these trapped emotions, they can control our subconscious patterns. So it's good, especially the negative ones, to be releasing these negative ones so we're not triggered in situations again. So I'll get to the second one and I'll move a bit quicker now. So is there a trapped emotion we can release that's causing my right sides to be blocked? Is it the left side, is it the right side, is it common? So it's a common, it's common A, common B. So the next one that's come up for me is a feeling of terror. And now I ask, do we need to know any more about this trapped emotion? Yes, so I'm going to go to age, 0, 20, 0, 10. So this one's come up age 16 again. So it's coming up with something I've seen on TV. And funnily enough, as I spoke about before, 9/11 attack, I was actually age 16, 2001, so born in 1985, so it's kind of strong for the 9/11 attack. So some of these emotions, it's not so much a situation, it can be watching a movie. I see it a lot with kids sometimes. If there's a scary bit in the movie, they can trap an emotion about a movie. TV, news, any situation can happen. Okay, so release that. So I'll move on to the next one. So trapped emotion release that's causing my right sides to be blocked. So this one's absorbed. So is it called A, called B? So this one's a an absorbed emotion of defensiveness. So what I'll do now is I'm going to find out what age this occurred and who I absorbed it from. So what age did I absorb this emotion? 0 to 20, 0 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 16. So I've got age 20, I've absorbed this. And it's come from my father. That's all we need to know. So I'm going to release that trapped emotion of defensiveness. Okay, so trapped emotion release. That's causing a blockage. My right side is to be blocked. So left side. So this one's absorbed again. So this one I've absorbed is guilt and age 0 to 20. So this is absorbed and around the age of 32. So these ages can be sort of year before or after, year either side. Sometimes if things happen around your birthday, your subconscious doesn't actually carry a calendar, so it can be very close. Either side of a year of that age that comes up. So I absorb this from. So I've absorbed this from my daughter. And that's all we need to know. So I'm going to release that one. Okay, so I'll move to the next emotion. So a trapped emotion we can release that is causing my right size to be blocked. So left side, right side, common. So the next one I've identified is defensiveness, and said I didn't need to know any more about this situation, so I can release that straight away. So a trapped emotion I release, that's causing my right size to be blocked. So left side, right side, is it common? Is it column A? Is it So the next one I've got come up is an emotion of hatred. And do we need to know any more about this? We don't need to know any more, so I'm going to release that one straight away. Okay. So I'll move on to the next emotion. Is there a trapped emotion with release that's causing my right size to be blocked? So then the left side, right side, common, column A, column B. So this one's a common one, but we're not getting a clear answer. So usually that means it's just test it's a compound. So it is a compound emotion. So what I'm going to do now is identify the two emotions that has happened that are making up this compound. So it's the first emotion in column A. So the first emotion that's come up is of bitterness. And the second emotion is in column A, column B, and the next emotion has come up as stubbornness. Is there any more emotions that make up this compound? So there's a third one. This is the third emotion in column A, in column B. So the third emotion is terror. So that's the three emotions that we have made up this compound emotion, and I'll get an age this occurred, age 0 to 20, 20, 30, 35, 30, 31. So this happened at age 31. Do we need to know any more about this one? So it says we need to know any more. Did it involve family? Did it involve work? So this one's involved work. So it involves a person we did business with. And that's all we need to know. So I've got a feeling I know that situation, but because I don't have to bring that up. I don't have to speak about that emotion. I can go along that situation with you, and because you're asleep or you're not there, you're not present, you're not having to bring that situation up again. As I said before, this is the great thing about the emotion code is we don't have to go through those situations again in our lives if there have been traumatic events. So what I'm going to do is release that one. So the way I get what situation it occurs is basically narrowed down as process of elimination. So for something like that, usually we can work on family, friends, work, that sort of thing, find out that situation it's from, just through the muscle testing. And our subconscious will test strong for where it is. And if it's involving a person, it could be family, friend, colleague, work colleague. And we just basically, by process of elimination, we get to it. I don't actually know the situation. I can't see the situation through your eyes there. It's just basically testing, getting into your energy and testing through the muscle testing by process of elimination and getting out as much information as we can. So release another emotion. Current is a trapped emotion that's causing my right size to be blocked. So this one's absorbed again. So this next one is an absorbed emotion of grief. And absorbed age 0 to 20, 0 to 10, 10 to 15, 12. So this occurred at the age of 12. Absorbed this from my mother. Absorbed it from my father. That's all I need to know. There's no particular situation for that I can actually think of. As I said, when they're absorbed, sometimes it's a lot harder to identify the situation because it's not you going through that process, it's someone that you have been around that is feeling that process. So that intense emotion sometimes doesn't go through. You don't have that feeling or that really connection to that situation that happened, but you absorb that energy as if it's your own. So I mean, grief could have been someone passing or someone getting sick, or something like that scenario. So I'll move on to the next trapped emotion. So trapped emotion we can release. That is causing my size, my right size to be blocked. So the left side, so the right side, is it common, is it common A, is it common B, is it odd, or is it one? Stubbornness. So the next one I've got is stubbornness. And do we need to know any more about this? And we don't need to know any more about that one. That's released. So I'll move on and get the last emotion for this session before we finish. Is there a trapped emotion I can release that's causing a blockage in my right sinus? Is it on the left side? Is it on the right side? Is it common? Common A? Is it common B? Is it odd? So this one, next one we've got up is an emotion of terror. Do we need to know any more about this trapped emotion of terror? And don't need to know more about that trapped emotion of terror. Okay, so that's the end of the emotional releases in the session. That's as simple as the process works. So once we've done this session, you'll get a video recording of exactly what I've been through on myself. Just if you wanted to have a look at it, you don't have to have a look. We also send a note so you can have a look over what notes come up, just to see if anything you can relate to. Some people are curious, some people don't even want to look at it, and they're just happy to have the session and know that they've released that emotional energy. So what I'm going to do now is the scale of the issue after the session. So obviously for a physical pain, sometimes if we're on an email session, we can't get that immediately. So what we usually do is we'll ask the subconscious of what level this is affecting them. So we have that scale down the track. So I'm going to ask my subconscious, how much is this right nostril, right sinus being blocked? How much is the issue there? So I've got the scale from my subconscious as a 2, so it still means there may be a little bit more to clear out of there. Because I'm here physically, I can actually see the physical difference, so I'll test it. It's actually a lot better than what it was this morning, so I'd probably say it'd be maybe a 3 or a 4 physically for me, down from a 7, but the subconscious is saying 2. So sometimes the physical symptoms can go straight away and immediately. Sometimes they might take a few sessions. Sometimes they might go away straight away, then come back in a few days. That usually means that something else something's been released from the surface, sort of like peeling the layers off an onion. You've just peeled that first layer off, and it feels clear for now, but the next layer comes to the surface and it needs releasing as well. And we just keep releasing until there's nothing more to release, and that pain can sometimes subside. As I said, in one session, could take multiple sessions, depending on the issue, depending on the emotions that are behind that. So the next step we do is we go through a processing time, and we've got another video on processing, so I won't explain that too much here, but processing can sort of take up to 3 days. So about 20% of the time you'll feel some processing symptoms. So some of those can include fatigue, tiredness, really vivid dreams. The emotions sometimes will come up just out of the blue, and you'll just feel like you're having that emotional, not so much going through the emotion that's released, that essentially that type of emotion. Like for example, my wife, she released one of somebody else one day of crying, or actually I released one of her of crying, and that afternoon out of the blue she just said, she started crying. She just felt like, I need to cry, and that comes up. The situation doesn't link back to it, but that emotion of crying links back to it. So that's one scenario that the processing symptoms you might see. Now obviously the positive side of that is you may not feel anything, or you may just feel like a real lightness, like you're carrying a backpack and you've just thrown your backpack off and it's just free, and you've just let that emotional baggage go. So they're always a good one. So what I usually do is find the processing time. So usually, as I said, up to 3 days. Some people process things quicker than others, and depending on what you've released. So after that processing time, that period, you should start to feel and sort of everything should be removed from your system as such. The energy will be fully released. So my processing time, is it going to be more than 1 day, 1 or 2 days? So it's up to 3 days. So that means usually the next session, we schedule sessions at least every 3 to 4 days. Just gives that processing time to everything to settle down and get back to balance, and then we move to the next session. If we go in too quickly, your body can just sort of get overwhelmed and the processing symptoms can be a lot worse. So we don't want to overload that body with that processing of that energy. So that's the basis for an energy code session, releasing up to 10 emotions in the session, through the energy release, through identifying the emotions and releasing over the governing meridian to open that energy up. As I said before, once this session's over, we'll stop recording and we send you through the copy of the recording of the session and the notes, so you can go through it if you want to. Obviously, you don't have to watch it, or you don't have to read the notes if you don't want to. Thank you for watching the video, and of course, if you want to book in for an emotion code session, head to our website and book in through there, or send us an email and we can arrange an email session through there. Or we do offer Zoom sessions as well, so if you prefer to do it face-to-face, we can find the time to do that. But if you're really busy and you just want it done, the email sessions are fantastic. We just basically send you a client intake form. You fill out the details, the problems. Usually we get to set you to send a photo through so we can find it easier to connect with you. And then we can do the session, booking the time to do the session. We'll give you a schedule of the sessions and map them out when they're going to happen. And then complete the sessions, send you the videos, the notes, and you'll still see the benefits without actually having to turn up for an appointment, which is very handy. I hope you got something out of the video and hope you enjoyed it, and I'd love to see you book in and do some work with you and help you improve your own life like we've improved ours and our kids from doing this work. So thank you for listening, and I hope to be able to do some work with you soon. Thank you.